The Haunting at Bhangarh Fort, Rajasthan, India.
My name is Ananya, and I never imagined that a simple trip with my friend Vikram to see a historic fort would turn into the most terrifying experience of my life. Bhangarh Fort, perched on the edge of a hill in Rajasthan, has always been surrounded by dark legends. Locals spoke of curses, spirits, and visitors who never returned. But like many, we were curious, drawn by the thrill and the allure of the unknown. We arrived late in the afternoon, when the sun began casting long, twisted shadows across the dry landscape. The fort's walls, once vibrant, were now weathered and crumbling, carrying a heavy sense of age and decay. The path leading up was steep, flanked by trees whose branches scratched against each other in the wind, producing an almost whispering sound. Vikram, normally skeptical, was unusually quiet. "This place feels off," he muttered, adjusting the strap of his backpack. I laughed nervously, trying to dismiss his unease. "It's just old ruins, Vikram. People blow these stories out of proportion." But even as I spoke, a chill ran down my spine. The air seemed thicker here, as if every breath carried the weight of centuries. We stepped through the massive stone gate, and immediately, the temperature dropped. The sun was still above the horizon, yet shadows seemed darker than they should be, stretching unnaturally across the ground. As we explored, I noticed inscriptions carved into the walls, warnings in Sanskrit. Vikram, who had a basic understanding of the language, read aloud, "No one shall enter after sunset, for the spirits of the forsaken guard these grounds." I shivered, brushing it off as theatrics, but my heart thumped faster. We wandered through the inner courtyard, our footsteps echoing against the stone. The fort was silent except for the rustle of leaves and the occasional distant caw of a crow. But then, faint whispers began to drift through the corridors. I froze, straining to hear. Vikram's face turned pale. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. I nodded. The voices weren't words, not quite, just murmurs, like countless people speaking at once in a language I didn't understand. They seemed to come from inside the walls themselves. As dusk fell, the shadows lengthened, and the whispers grew louder, now mingled with strange, guttural sounds. We climbed the narrow staircases leading to the fort's towers, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. It was then that we saw her, a figure in white, standing motionless atop a crumbling parapet. Her hair flowed in the wind, yet she didn't move. Her eyes, hollow and black, seemed to stare directly into us. "Ananya. Do you see that?" Vikram's voice trembled. I nodded, too frightened to speak. The figure raised an arm slowly, pointing toward us. Suddenly, the wind picked up violently, carrying the faint scent of smoke and something metallic, like blood. We turned to retreat, but the corridors had changed. Doors led to dead ends, staircases spiraled into darkness, and rooms appeared where none had existed before. Every step echoed unnaturally. The fort seemed alive, reshaping itself around us. Shadows danced on the walls, stretching and bending into grotesque shapes. My flashlight flickered, revealing fleeting images, faces screaming silently, hands reaching out from cracks in the stone. Vikram grabbed my arm, his grip tight. "We need to leave. Now!" he shouted, but the fort wasn't letting us go. From the darkness, a low chanting began, a rhythmical, hypnotic sound that made our heads spin. We tried to follow the main gate, but each corridor twisted impossibly, looping back onto itself. The voices grew louder, echoing our names in a mocking tone. Then we heard footsteps behind us. Not human, heavy, dragging, yet moving impossibly fast. I spun around, and there it was, a shadowy figure, taller than any person, its limbs long and contorted, faceless yet exuding malice. I screamed, but Vikram's hand clamped over my mouth. The figure dissipated when our flashlight caught it directly, leaving only a chilling cold. We ran blindly, bursting into a room that seemed different. Old manuscripts, talismans, and inscriptions littered the floor. Vikram picked one up, translating hurriedly. This fort was cursed by a wizard who swore vengeance against the king. He trapped the souls of all who entered after sunset, binding them to these walls forever. Suddenly, a scream erupted from the tower above. The figure we had seen earlier now appeared at multiple windows simultaneously, pressing against the glass as if trying to come inside. The air grew so cold that our breaths formed clouds, and a darkness deeper than night enveloped the room. I felt a hand, icy, skeletal, brush my shoulder. I whirled around, but the room was empty. Shadows writhed on the walls, forming human-like shapes that shifted and lunged. Vikram tripped over debris, and I grabbed him, pulling him up. "We have to get out," I cried. We found a narrow stairwell leading down. As we descended, the whispers turned into screams, voices overlapping in an unbearable cacophony. Doors slammed behind us, some barely visible, appearing out of the stone itself. It was like the fort was alive, intent on keeping us trapped, hours, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell. Later, we stumbled out into the courtyard. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow. Yet the fort loomed taller than ever. Shadows stretching impossibly across the hill. We ran down the slope, not daring to look back. Even as we reached the road and saw lights from distant villages, I knew that part of us remained inside Bhangarh Fort. The whispers, the shadows, the feeling of being watched, they followed us. Vikram swears he sometimes hears chanting at night, and I wake to find cold drafts and the sense that something is standing in the corner of my room. Bhangarh Fort is not just a ruin. It is a living curse. A place where the past lingers, the spirits remember, and the unwary are trapped in shadows forever. And I know, beyond doubt, that if we ever return, it will not let us leave again.